How you doing again, Jesse? It's Terrell with Big Go About Media. Nice to meet you again.
And you, Terrell, thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
it's been a while. It's been a while. Last movie we talked about was Boudica, Queen of War. It was
Brilliant.
quite a conversation. Great movie, by the way. I know we talked about that last time.
Thank you very
Uh,
much.
so we got a new project, Chief of Station. Can I talked to Aaron earlier today, doing an interview, and he had so many wonderful things to say about you and the amazing work that you did on set, and how great of a job you were, filming the action. What was something for this movie in particular that you wanted to bring new that you hadn't done in your previous films?
Uh, I think it's a scope that I hadn't worked with before. I started seeing these locations. We were doing the scouting, and they were taking me to these places in Budapest, that, like the old submarine factory, Cold War submarine
Right.
factory. We went to where we filmed the end car chase and a lot of stuff there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually have the chance to really paint on a big canvas on this one, to get back and see things as that from a from a perspective that I haven't been able to in the past. When you make a lower budget movie, it's a lot trickier,
Right.
just because you don't have the extras or the sets, but the time it takes to put a camera back 400 yards and clear everything back and then bring it back in again, it just takes extra time to make a film that way. And I had the ability to paint with a scope that I haven't before with this film, and it thrilled me. And then it became a scary challenge because, like, okay, now we've got to find the material to work for that. In terms of story, it was how to tell a spy film in a way that hasn't been told a million times before. And this
Right.
is this is an area that has really been, I mean, it's really been plowed. You've got the James Bond film, Spy Who Came Into the Cult, John le Carre, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. You have such beautiful masterpieces of cinema, action cinema, comedy, that have used this genre. So how are we going to do something with this that even feels remotely fresh? Now, my big angle, my big hook on this was that the 21st century has seen a huge shift in espionage.
Right.
We're going back to methodology and techniques that are organic and analog, and not based upon internet or cell phone anymore, because that's been proven to be completely unreliable. You have children that can eavesdrop on the
Yeah.
NSA if they're well versed in technology enough, and many are, because they're growing up, absolutely involved in programming computers. So we're seeing this shift in the real world towards techniques that were perfected during the 1980s in the Cold War era and then forgotten. But these techniques go back to the Napoleonic era, Civil War, and then even further than that to Roman times, when people were spying and using espionage and counter espionage and subterfuge to find out what your enemy was doing, what your
Right.
friends were doing, which is even scarier than finding out what your enemy. Uh, so that was exciting for me. Right, I have a way of telling this story that is slightly different to, every James Bond film that's been out. So I open the film with an old school handoff, which is where a piece of information is being sold to another agency, and that person can't be seen to be handing it over. So it goes through a series of different hands before it's in the hands of the
Right.
person it needs to be. And I didn't realize how really difficult that was to shoot. And we immense amounts of coordination, because we've got to shoot the thing from five different angles, from the angles of each of those five different handoffs, and then the whole thing from Aaron's. You have Jenny's, played by Nick Moran, and Alex Pettifer, who's watching the whole thing through a scope. So we effectively had to do this handoff about 10 times perfectly, which involved 100 extras and a very famous tourist spot, called Fisherman's Bastion in Budapest, where people are trying to walk through the shot every five
I
minutes.
noticed that.
Yeah, so it was an interest. That was my first day, first sequence of the movie, and the way that I wanted to set the tone for the film as being something different to anything I'd done before, but also in the spy genre, a little different, a little twist. Everything is a variation of the same thing, and it was really challenging, really exciting, and
I see. There's a lot of work, like you say. You had all those extras you had in the movie alone. Like you said, it's a little bit more challenging when you're dealing with, like you said, a low budget movie or whatever. But like you said, you had some money here, so you had a little bit more to spend. Getting those scenes just
thing is, you
right.
have 100 extras, and they're all doing their little bit of action, talking on the phone,
Right.
playing with the kid, the person going by in the background on the bicycle. But it has to be replicated 10 times from 10 different angles.
Mm.
because we're seeing it. So that those guys all have to be directed by the extremely talented AD crew. I don't handle the extras, especially in a country that doesn't speak
Right.
English. They're handled by the assistant directors team, Norbert Villanova, who's very, very good. And these guys were terrific. They worked really well. It was perfect, placement every time. Everyone hit their spots at the same time as the lead actors were hitting there. So it's fun. It's like a little bit of a dance. It feels like you're doing a choreographed dance sequence when you do that really well. So it's good.
Do you feel like it was more difficult to direct this kind of being outside the country, like being somewhere where, like you said, you had a little more of a translation issue?
I spend a lot of time out of the country. I love it. I love working in different countries. It can be as difficult making yourself understood to someone in Thailand or Hungary as it is to someone in America or England.
Gotcha.
The ability to get across what you need is not. It's such an interesting thing. It's not. We live. I'm in a business where there's no yes or no answer. It's simply what I feel is going to work the best as the director, and how many people I can convince to do it my way.
Right.
And so sometimes it's easier when you're in a country that doesn't speak the language you speak, and I'm going through a translator, and it happens. Other times it can add challenges, but I love working out of the country. And the crew we had in Hungary was phenomenal. I just did a TV show with them last year where I was there for 4 months, and it was a lot of the same characters, and I love working with them. I love that country. But the most important thing on this film that set it apart for me was the fact that I had a phenomenal above the line cast. My keys, Aaron, Olga, Alex, and Daniel were just so good and so committed and so present with what was going on that when that happens, you find it runs down, and everyone else, the supporting cast, gets more interested, the extras get more interested, the crew gets more, invested, and so it was wonderful. It was a really fabulous, experience. I had so many sort of day players coming in. We were using English-speaking day players who had small roles of a couple of lines. I brought a couple from England as well, who were playing opposite Aaron, and they'd come to me after their scene and go, "Oh my God, that was the most intense and coolest experience I've ever had," because he's so good. He's playing at such a high level. It's like playing with the top jazz player that you can think of. He's just riffing, and just
Right.
inventing what's going on, and it's absolute genius. So it was really fun working with him, and his enthusiasm is completely contagious, and his professionalism it spreads, and you suddenly, the set is quieter than on many films because everyone's focused on what's going on. People are sort of quietly suggesting other ideas because they're off thinking about how they might solve this scene, and they've got an idea. So you have someone from the grip department come and say, perhaps we did it that way, it'd be really good. And you're like, yeah, that's fantastic, let's do it that way. And this is a nice thing that happens when you have your keys that committed. So I was very lucky on this one. Great cast.
Yeah, I can see you can definitely feel the energy. Like if people were like they were having fun in this movie. You know what I mean? Acting aside, like you definitely feel the energy. People were having a legitimately good time in the movie. As I was saying to Aaron earlier, you can definitely feel that.
Good.
One of the scenes I wanted to talk to you about, one of my favorite scenes of this movie is the casino scene,
Right.
and how the action is filmed here, and getting Aaron prepared for this because apparently he said he got this done in like like one take. I was like, okay. So I was like, it looks like it's multiple shots, but how long did it take you guys to get this scene ready? I'm sure there's a lot of props that get broken here, a lot of people getting hurt. How long
Well,
did it
I
take
don't,
you
I
guys?
don't know if you noticed, but the intro to the casino scene is a single long take that travels through 4 rooms with almost 300 extras. And it goes all the way to the casino table, and then Aaron steps into the shot. We see him earlier on, so that took the AD department a long time. It's a steady cam that travels through everything, past my fiance, who's the singer in the casino,
Oh
and does
wow.
all the way through. We go one way and then the other way, and that was really exciting. When I saw this location, which was this amazing sort of turn of the 19th century luxury apartment, it was like we've got to film this in a single take and get ourselves in there. And then the opening at the Green Velvet was based on the Sean Connery introduction in Doctor No.
Mm.
That was I copied it even down to the shot angles into where the dialogue starts, but it's just so good on that one. And I wanted to give us have a little
Yeah,
fun with that.
Every spy movie has to have a casino scene. I feel like it's a staple at this point.
Yeah,
Like,
sort of is. I traveled a lot internationally when I was in sort of in the 90s as an AD and a stuntman, and first as an AD and then as a stuntman, and the casinos are there, and in those days there was no internet, so you would wander around and try to find things to do, and casinos were, I don't know how it is now, but there was certainly something that you went and sort of walked around and sniffed around, had a look, and I lost money every single time, which is really good because no interest in continuing to do it. But there is something international about it and sort of fascinating. Uh, it involves a certain amount of risk and a certain amount of skill. So it's a good way to assess another man, I think, in literary terms. Uh, I'd hate to be assessed on my skill in the casino because I'd failure.
um, last question, I'll wrap it here. If and I know this is an impossible question to ask you as a director, but after seeing the final product, was there anything in this that you would have changed or something that you would have done differently from a different angle?
I'd love to have been a little more involved in the final fight. I didn't have as much input in that as possible. We were crammed. I let Daniel handle a lot of the final fight scene, and I was off doing the car chase. And I wish I could have been there for a little more of that. I would have made that a little more spectacular and longer. But Daniel did a great job, and it's great. Your previous question was about Aaron's take with the action. I think you were talking about as
Yeah.
opposed to I'm shot in. He was fantastic. Yes, he did it very, very quickly. It was brilliant, and he's physically extraordinarily adept. Aaron Eckhart, very, very strong guy as well, and a
Look,
martial artist. And yeah, he did that really, really quickly. But I like that. I like what they came up with for that choreography. The guy getting hit in the face, and
I'm not even surprised that President Asher at this point can take out 8 men in a casino. You know what I mean? From his Olympus Has Fallen days. So like, I mean, he can pretty much take on anybody at this point.
very good. He had to make a scene. That's all he had to do there.
Right,
That was
right. He did a really good job of it.
yeah.
But look,
Thank you.
Jesse, I really appreciate you again for doing another interview with me today. I really appreciate the time. This has been excellent. Answered all my questions that I had at the top of my head. I'm glad we got to do this again.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate it. And thank you for your support.
No problem. Thank you.
Hey, Terrell.
See ya.
Thanks so much.